Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of what? No. Welcome back to another Sims 4 speed build. This was a last minute, boring Sunday afternoon inspiration from a TV show I was watching based on a New York City apartment that I had to try my best to turn into a tiny home. I could not make it any smaller and still have the features in it that I really wanted. I guess I could have made the living room a little bit smaller. It's a little bit harder to make the bedroom smaller because the bed takes up so much space that you have to be able to move around it. The Sims do, I mean. And so you have to allow for so much space, and then there are certain appliances that are basically necessary, and so you have to allow for space for those, and then you run into this problem where you kind of end up with bigger spaces than you meant for them to be, just because of the scale of everything. So I did my best to capture the inspiration of a really cool looking TV New York City apartment that I saw in a Sims 4 tiny house build. I will also say this, I might be sounding a little more nasally than normal. That you might have seen on Instagram that we're clearing, we have a spare bedroom in our house that we've just been using for storage because we don't really have much of an attic where we live, and we don't have a basement at all. So we've been kind of using this spare bedroom as a storage space for like old toys and old clothes and just all sorts of stuff. And it's been like that for years now. So you can imagine the layers and layers of dust in there. Well, I'm kind of cleaning it out to turn it into a recording space for myself. And I think I might be allergic to dust. My sinuses have been giving me so much trouble. I think, though, that once I move into that room is very small. It's 10 by 10, so it's tiny compared to the room I'm in right now. The room I'm in right now is enormous. It is the size of a New York City apartment, and it's got cathedral ceilings on top of it, so it's enormously echoey out here. I think once I move into that smaller space with, carpets and artwork on the walls and maybe a chair, a nice fluffy chair in the corner or something, a lot of that echoing will be dampened and I'll just generally sound better anyways. But I'm also hoping to upgrade my microphone soon, so that might help as well. We'll see. But it's especially bad right now because my sinuses are giving me quite a bit of trouble right now. But anyways, yes, this is a New York City apartment built in Newcrest in The Sims 4, and I did my best to capture what I was feeling looking at that apartment and the sort of aesthetic of that apartment, if you will. I think I did a pretty good job. There's always room for improvement, obviously, but I think I did a relatively good job on it. And there's not much to explain. I mean, I always feel like most of these builds, once you see the end result, it's basically self-explanatory. So I don't need to explain too much other than to say, oh, that's the other thing. One of these days, probably soon in the next week or so, I'm gonna start trying to do more build with me rather than just speed builds. I know speed builds are still pretty popular, and I'll try to do lots of speed builds as well. But I know that I'm a simmer from the early Sims days, back before Move Objects On was even a cheat. Back before it was ever recommended to do anything other than place all objects on the grid as intended and leave like at least 2 blocks of space around everything for the Sims to move around. Back then, you couldn't even use floor tiles outside of a build because it would mess with the pathing system of the Sims. I think even now in The Sims 4, they don't recommend you to use a lot of floor tiles on the outsides of your builds because it can still mess with the pathing system of The Sims, which is a little bit weird, but I get it. There are some limitations in this game. I still use floor tiles outside. It's the one area where I've always broken the rules, and I probably will continue to always break the rule. Whereas inside my builds, I refuse to use move objects on any more than I absolutely have to, because I find that it hinders the Sims pathing ability, and it just gets really annoying seeing the graphic glitches that come with using move objects on, or having objects just suddenly disappear all of a sudden. But yeah, it's hard to recreate these real life builds, but I think I did a fairly decent job on this one, at least getting the feel of it anyways, if not recreating the apartment itself perfectly. Um, and I do think I added more on than what was in the real life apartment, just because there are certain things that are necessary to a Sim's life, like a sink and a stove, but also you have to have a full empty countertop for them to work on. There has to be at least one countertop that has nothing on it for them to do their cooking on. And so, in order to add a sink, I had to add more than just the one extra countertop, if that makes sense. And based on the way the house that or the apartment that I copied this from was built, I had to add some extra countertop space, if that makes sense. So it is slightly different, and I have no idea where the bathroom in this house or in that apartment was at. I just, based on what little I saw of the apartment, I took my best guess as to where the bathroom was at. And then, based on the setup of the kitchen, dining space, and living room, I took my best guess as to where the bathroom door was located at. And I put it there. I don't know if it actually is or not, but it's the only place that it would fit in The Sims 4. So that's kind of, the bathroom is in the bedroom. I find that weird. Maybe people who live in bigger cities and apartments don't find that weird, because that seems to happen a lot. But for me, for where I live, going through the bedroom to get to the bathroom just seems odd. But that's how this apartment seemed to be built. Also, what seems odd is that the bedroom and the living room are absolutely enormous, but the kitchen and dining room space are like barely the size of a closet compared to the rest of the apartment, which I found weird. But, oh, I hit my desk. I'm so sorry. Or not desk, my tray table that I'm using. That's the other thing I'm looking forward to when I get that space made, is that I'll be in an actual desk. I just have to find a chair that I can sit in for long periods of time that won't cause my SI joint problems to act up. So far, I haven't found one, but I'll keep looking. But anyways, yeah, the the bedroom and the living room are absolutely enormous. I love the dividing walls with the windows in between the spaces, but in real life, I think I would have gotten rid of those dividing walls, as cool as they are, the big window dividing walls between the rooms. I think I would have gotten rid of them in favor of having a slightly bigger kitchen, dining room space, maybe. But who knows? Maybe it was set up that way because of the plumbing. I don't know. A lot of those old New York City, well, most New York City apartments, most apartments, period, that are older are set up really oddly because of the way the plumbing is set up and the fact that nobody wants to spend the thousands and thousands of dollars to rework the plumbing. So that's just a real life tidbit on how things work. If you're ever looking at old apartments and why they are so oddly set up the way they are, 90% of the time it has to do with electrical or plumbing, something along those lines that has to be in a very specific space. And so everything else has to be worked around that. You will notice there that I put that mailbox right next to the front door, even though it's not on a tile of its own. I am leaving my comfort zone a little bit and squishing things into places where they probably don't always work the greatest and might be blocked. I did not play test this first. I'm sorry. I did not play test it first. I do not know if your sim can actually use that mailbox or not. That is always my fear. I forgot. I just simply forgot to do it. But that's always my fear when I'm looking at these beautiful places on Twitter. Like, they're gorgeous to look at, yes, but I build to play the game. And those Twitter builds, they're built just for looking at, not for playing in, because they are not playable. Not at all. I've tested some of them. Oh, it looks like the video froze for a second. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, with that, this speed build is just about done, so I am going to stop talking here in a second, and I will put on the background music and you can watch. hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.